Starting take two in 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, hey there, folks. Hey there, ladies and gents. Welcome to Take Two. That is right here on the Voices on the Net network. Ronnie and I have returned for yet another episode of the program. Glad all of you could join us. We have a great one for you. Of course, we'll find out the episode number in just a bit. Hey, Ronnie. How are you?
Hi, JJ.
What's going on?
I'm exhausted, but I'm here.
Yeah, 2 hours of sleep, you said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot, and I thought I didn't get that much sleep, and I got double what you got. So yeah, you're probably egging on fumes, but we'll talk more about that, of course, and so much more. We'll get the episode announcement from you, but first, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, would you please visit www.theonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the great listeners, will be able to find more information pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network. All you need to do is go up to the top of the website, click the About link, where you will arrive at a web page that will provide you everything you need to know pertaining to the network in thorough detail. Now you can also check out, and probably the greatest features on the website, if I and Ronnie say so ourselves, the podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows available on demand for and at your very own convenience. You can check all of these brilliant features out by going to www.theonthenet.com. Well, I'll tell you, this never gets old. That is for sure. It never gets old. We've been doing it for some time now. It's been a tradition here on Take Two. We're not going to stop now. So, Ronnie, peek into that envelope of yours, because I know we're at yet another episode of the show, and I believe we're edging ever so closer to the next milestone. The next mini milestone, that is, but milestone nonetheless. But, You've got that data, that information for us, I'm sure.
Yes, I do. Secretly, conveniently held onto an envelope. So according to my sources and the envelope for today,
right.
Episode 264.
There you have it, folks. Episode 264 of Take Two. Thank you, Ronnie, as always. So yeah, only got 2 hours of sleep. Not much. You don't look like you're tired. But then again, that could be because of the 5-hour energy you took.
Yeah, Black Label.
Black Label, yeah. You know somebody's tired when they dip into the Black Label 5-hour energy. That's
called desperate. Oh, you need to be woken up now.
That's the extra strength 5-hour energy. You know, I need to be awake. I need to be awake. I need to be awake, so I need it. Yeah. There's the different kinds, of course. I probably,
as my heart's beating out of my chest.
Yeah, I probably drink a few more 5-hour energies than I should, but yeah, I figure. Listen, it's got some good in it. It's got some good. It's got vitamin B6. It's got vitamin B12. It's got plenty of energy in it. That's for sure, obviously, and it doesn't have that much caffeine. More of the energy blend is in the ingredients: the taurine, the malic acid, the acetyl, what else? There's tyrosine. I'm looking at the bottle here, but yeah, there is some caffeine in it, but it does work clearly, and yeah.
Yep, in 20 minutes your eyes are wide awake.
Really,
Either that, maybe they're spamming. I don't know.
Well, that's what the 5-hour energy does. It wakes you up with all of the ingredients, the energy ingredients in it. That gives you the energy you need. And yeah, I mean, see, I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm not. So, and plus, coffee's just caffeine. This has so much more than just caffeine in it. similar to if you were to go to your doctor to get a B12 shot or something. This has vitamin B12 as well as B6 in it, so you're going to get the needed energy you need. But there are, of course, there's ingredients in it that probably they're not that great for you. But then again, just about anything out there is bad for you in one way or another. So it's like, do you want to live in a bubble or what?
Yeah.
If you need something, well, are you going to really stress yourself out over deciding whether to use it or not? I drink these 5-hour energies because I have a crazy schedule. I'm up late, and I need to be up for the shows during the day, just like yourself. You've got 2 hours of sleep. You have to do a show. You need to be awake, so you're going to do what you're going to do, right?
That's right. So I reached for the desperation and grabbed one of those. Actually, I took 2, so
you took
I'm going to
2.
be a little bit overwhelmed.
You took 2 of the extra strengths?
I drank 2 of them.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I
took...
could feel my heart beating pretty quick.
What?
I'm surprised you can't hear it.
What was the duration between them, though?
Maybe an hour.
An hour between the first one and the second one.
Yeah, because the first one wasn't really doing the trick yet. So I was like, I need to get this going. And
you're supposed to not go over 2 in a daily 24-hour period. You're not. Yeah. And Ronnie took 2 within an hour period. Wow. 2 extra strengths. Yeah, yes. That's not exactly the smartest thing you could have done. But, like, obviously you need to do what you're going to do because you need energy. I'm surprised 1 extra strength usually helps me. If say I've only gotten 1 hour of sleep, that helps me. 2, though, wow. I don't think I've ever taken 2 of within an hour period. Maybe in a day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. But yeah, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I'm like really wound.
Imagine, maybe that's why when I first saw you, you didn't look tired. I guess you really wouldn't look tired.
Chemically driven.
Thanks to the great folks at 5-Hour Energy, Ronnie has all the energy in the world.
That's right.
She's not going to be tired because, well, she's chugged 2 5-Hour Energy, the extra strength ones, within an hour of each other. That's let's just say I don't recommend that to those of you listening. Do not try this at home. Not saying don't drink your 5-Hour Energy, but seek caution. Absolutely. If you are even remotely thinking of doing what Ronnie did. She needed to do it. She's saying, listen, drastic measures call for, or drastic situations call for drastic measures. And you know what? You need to do what you're going to do, I suppose. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm here, hyped in the whole 9 yards, ready to go. If I don't jump off the screen, so yeah, out of a little box.
Well, bottled water, Ronnie. You bottled water drinker. You like drinking bottled water. I don't know how much.
Yes.
I know you. What do you usually drink? What usually? I mean, I don't know what you usually drink. I know I see you sipping on something over there every now and then, but I don't know if it's water.
It's water.
Oh, so you drink bottled water rather than
a lot of bottled water.
Okay, bottled water versus tap, and this is a debate that continuously goes on. Some people say, listen, there's no difference, while there are other people that say, oh, there is definitely a difference between bottled water and tap. Now, many people wonder, why are we paying 500 times the price of something that we could get virtually, an endless amount of, because it's, well, just go to your sink, that's it. Why are we paying so many more times for something that we get for free? And people feel that, listen, if it's in a bottle and it has a really cool logo on the front of it, it has to be good. It has to be a good product. But you come across the debate as to whether or not bottled water actually is that much safer than tap water, and then you have that much better or tastier than actual tap water. Some people feel the tap water tastes like the sewer or toilet water. Then again, I guess you would have had to had a brief encounter with a toilet bowl in order to find out whether or not you know what toilet water tastes like. But tap water versus bottled water, go. Where do you stand in this argument, Ronnie? Can you taste the difference between bottled water and tap water? And how about other bottled water versus other brands of bottled water?
I can tell a difference between the bottled water and the tap water, because the tap water here, you can actually taste the chlorine. It just has that, it's kind of almost a sour taste to it. It just doesn't have that, the crispness, the cleanness that I get from a bottled water. Plus, it's more convenient for me to take from place to place. Has a lid on it, just take it, grab it, and go. Versus what's coming out of my faucet has to go through a filtering process, even though after doing that, it still has that taste, and even you can kind of smell the chlorine. I don't like that, so I use the bottled water, and that's what I use to go with, because I just grab it and go, and don't have to worry about putting ice into something, put it into something else. For me, it's convenience and, taste. I don't think it's healthier. I wouldn't say there's a difference in health-wise, but for convenient-wise and taste-wise, I think the bottled water tastes a lot better.
Convenient-wise, that's funny you bring up convenient-wise, because if you're going to bring up convenient, why wouldn't you just simply go over to your kitchen sink, turn on the faucet, and then have yourself a glass of water? That would obviously be much more convenient than actually opening up a bottle or going in your hallway and reaching to get a bottle of water, where you could just simply turn your sink on. But bottled water, and I can tell you right now, Ronnie, and I will debate this with my friends, I will debate this with anybody, because there definitely is a difference between the tastes. It's just how it's just like if you were to compare Aquafina to Dasani or Poland Spring to Evian. You'll be able to tell a difference between these major product manufacturers that create the bottled water. You could tell there's a difference between the actual bottled water manufacturers, let alone telling a difference between bottled water and tap water. The differences are drastic. I mean, if you can't taste a difference between Aquafina versus tap water, first off, we know that if you were to look at a Poland Spring bottle, you see a beautiful river with a mountain in the background and trees all around. That's not where the water's coming from. Actually, you know what? I take that back. There probably are people out there that feel that's exactly where the water comes from. No, it doesn't. Poland Spring water is going to be processed just like any other brand of water out there, and it's the processing that goes to show you just how great the water tastes. It's the processing of the water that gives us the great tasting water that we receive from these bottled manufacturers. Now, tap water, Ronnie brought up a filter. I use the Brita water filter. I can still tell the difference between the bottled water and Brita, though. Easily.
You can, and even some of the bottled waters that you go and buy, such as a Kmart brand or an offshoot brand, has the taste of actual plastic. It has that bottle taste in the water. But when I buy Aquafina, I don't have that kind of a taste. So I can taste the difference between the brands. And even though you have like the Coca-Cola products that also sell their version of the water, Pepsi has their version of the water, it just tastes totally different. It doesn't taste as processed as if it, just come blah, that's coming out of your kitchen faucet. Out of your faucet, you've got so much other gunk that's in there, even though FDA says it's okay, it's safe. Come on, chlorine, that's actually poison to the body, causes the kidneys and the liver to function much more harshly, which is your own body's filtering system. And I know that some people that drink the water that's coming out of their sink, doctors have actually prevented them from doing so because they have kidney damage or some kind of an infection going on.
Right.
Not to drink the tap water, to actually go to bottled water.
Right. That's the thing. Then that's the other side of the debate, is the safety between the two. Whether or not people that purchase their bottled water rather than simply turn on the faucet and get it for free, it's you think it's ironic because somebody is going to spend their hard-earned dollars to buy something you can get for free, but is it really so? Is it really so dumb because we look for quality in our products? And you can, even though there might not be that much of a difference between the safety between bottled water and tap, there's clearly, if you want to set the line at safety issues, you're going to have more of a chance of maybe getting sick drinking tap water than bottled water. And I'm not saying there aren't any safety issues when it has to do with bottled water. Clearly there are. Clearly. And there have been studies, there have been research and so forth that has shown that bottled water, it isn't 100%, you're not 100% immune from the problems that can occur as comparable to tap water, but tap water does include arsenic and so forth in it, so you can totally negate that. Clearly, you're not going to see, if, for instance, you drink out of your tap, you drink out of your faucet, you see those little black things in your cup sometimes. Yeah. You're not going to get that in bottled water. So you're already negating that. You're already basically forgetting about, worrying about that. And I think that's one of the many reasons people, and I bring up many because remember I mentioned safety issues. I drew the line right at safety issues because bottled water may have a decent amount of safety issues, as these studies have shown. I've read it online. I've read it elsewhere in magazines and so forth. I've talked to people that have actually told me that bottled water has more safety concerns than you would originally think. That it's more when people do go out and purchase these bottled water, these packages, or bottled water by the bottle, whatever. People are purchasing it for the taste. They can tell the difference between the bottled water and the tap. So that right there alone, if you think about it, if you want to set the bar at the safety issues, well, you're going to probably have more safety issues when it has to do with the tap.
Absolutely. And to think about it, put it in terms of pediatricians. When you have a powdered formula, right, and you are mixing it for your baby, the doctor always tells you, and the can tells you, to use distilled water, not tap water.
Right.
So there's a reason for that. Also, when I know that when we were in school, we had bottled water and we had household water, tap water. And we set it on a desk and it was left overnight. You come back, the tap water had the white, like lime ring in the glass when you dumped it out. So it was like really blurry, cloudy, and had left that lime deposit on the side of your glass. To where the bottled water, it didn't do that. So that's kind of like going into your body. What's it doing to the inside of your body?
Right. The thing is, and going back to why people buy, say you're going to spend $5 on a package of bottled water when people are struggling financially, they could get it for free. They're simply thinking of it's the fact that, and believe it or not, and as a business major and learning about marketing, the logo on a bottle makes quite a difference. Yep. And I'm sure you'd be able to attest to this too, as those of you listening too. You'd be able to attest the fact that if you look at a bottle or you look at a product and it has a unique logo, something that appeals to you, you'll probably be more prone to buy it. And in many cases, believe it or not, it's the logo that leads to your decision. There are so many different products that you could name on just alone, probably 5 easily different manufacturers of bottled water. Say you are in front of a few there. Say you have Aquafina, Poland Spring, Evian. You're going to probably, and you don't know which one to, say price is not an option for you because the price difference isn't going to be as drastic as you think. It's bottled water.
It's not.
So you look, okay, maybe Evian wasn't the greatest because we know Evian is clearly the lead in terms of, I guess, the royalty of bottled water. But say Aquafina, Poland Spring, and Dasani, 3 of them that are equally priced. Price is not a concern for you. So now you have to decide which one you're going to buy. They're all it's all bottled water. What can the difference be? It's all water. Water is water, right? Well, people can tell the difference between the tastes if they have tasted them before. If that's not even in question, you're probably going to focus on the logo. Believe it or not. And I think, Ronnie, I think you'd agree with me here, because if you look at a bottle of water or a product, and it has a very shiny, cool, unique logo, you're going to be more appealed to buy it. It's going to kind of draw you in.
Yeah, because you're thirsty, so you want something to quench your thirst, but to cool you off. So you want a crisp, clean, something that brings you to that, like spring water coming from a mountain or off of a glacier. Yep. That has that crisp cleanness that you're looking for.
Right. For instance, with the Aquafina bottle, you may be more appealed, or you may be more drawn to purchase the Aquafina bottled water because of the mountain. You look at it, it's a bottle with a blue background. You've got the mountains, the crisp white mountains that make it look like it's nice and crisp, cool, icy. There might be some frost when you take it out of the refrigerator at the store. It makes you want that water. Your taste buds and your quench for thirst is even higher after you look at it and then touch it, and then that's what draws people in. And these companies are smart, and that's what I've been learning as in my marketing classes as a business major. I've been learning about how these companies appeal to the consumer, how can they lead off in terms of the competition. And we know competition is great; it leads to innovation, but when it comes to separating you from the crowd, how can you do so? And believe it or not, the logo plays a major chief role in terms of drawing people in. And it's the same thing with bottled water. The reason I bring this up is it's not like we're comparing different kinds of sodas that have different tastes here. This is water here, folks. Water. How different of a taste are you going to get from an Aquafina bottle of water versus a Poland Spring water? It's water. Water has one taste. Or does it? Because water has, even if it's just a very vague, very subtle taste difference. Very subtle. Ronnie brought up the plastic taste you get from certain bottles versus a more crisp taste, say, from a non-store brand product like Aquafina. You'll notice a difference there, because I do. For instance, Dasani. My uncle hates Dasani. Can't stand it. Can't stand the taste. Loves Poland Spring. I, for instance, love Dasani. I like Poland Spring, but I like Dasani. I might like Dasani more. So it's like, however you perceive your senses to enjoy the taste of a specific bottle of water versus others, but you can't say that there isn't a difference between the bottled water and the tap. Just the way it is.
Also, the way that they promote it through the retailer.
Right.
When I was in the retail business as the manager, they would pay you. They would bring in how you distributed it and how you perfected it towards the clientele. So we would have Dasani that was clearly on sale and much cheaper than Aquafina in the cooler. So you could still see it. The customers could still get to it. However, Pepsi went a step further with that and gave us a huge cooler. Of course, you talk about the dead middle of summer when it's hot, sport games are going on, the whole 9 yards. And if you put that cooler filled with ice, crisp ice, and put it right in front of people, that's the first thing that they wanted to get was that, even though they knew that Dasani was considerably cheaper. It was the way it was dispersed in the store and advertised towards them.
Right. Usually, and this is with quite a few other products, and we do have to add into the associations, but with quite a few products, regardless of whether something may be priced a little cheaper, it doesn't matter. People will still pay the extra price because of maybe the brand, the reputation of that specific brand. Even if other companies, and you'll attract certain people clearly, but there are many people, many consumers that will continuously pay, even if it's more money, because something else is on sale. They'll still pay that price because they like the product, just the way it is. All right, we do have to head into the associations on this 264th episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. But before Ronnie and I do so, it is time to thank a sponsor. That is right. This portion of This portion of the 264th episode of Take Two is brought to you by Audible.com. And we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. Listen up, Ronnie and I have one heck of a deal for all of you. With over 85,000 audiobooks and counting, continuously adding new ones to the service, to Audible, to their collection. Really great collection. Truly the largest on the internet, the highest quality, too. You're going to receive a great deal where you don't have to spend a dime. Yeah, you don't have to spend 1 cent. One free audiobook as well as a 14-day free trial, 2 weeks to browse the immense selection of audiobooks offered at Audible. In order to take advantage of this offer, all you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/take2. Yep, that's right, audibletrial.com/take2. Say you're not an avid reader, but you've read a magazine here and there. You enjoy reading a magazine here and there. You pick up a book once in a blue moon, but you find that it isn't engaging to you. You're not receiving, even if you're reading a magazine article, traditionally, you're reading word for word, it doesn't intrigue you. Maybe this would be for you. I found out, and I've talked to people that just don't like to read traditionally. And you don't want to call them lazy. It just isn't an interest to them. Well, why wouldn't auditory retainment or the auditory experience, in other words, listening rather than reading word for word with your eyes, listening with your ears, why wouldn't that benefit you more? You probably enjoy listening to media like music maybe, or a talk show, say watching a television show or a movie maybe. More than likely you're going to say yes to that, right? Yeah. Well, why don't you try Audible? It's probably for you. And even if you're an avid reader, you do read traditionally, try it out yourself, because the thing is, how many of you read traditionally and read out loud just to hear yourself? Or say, even if you do read traditionally and you can retain what you're reading traditionally, you listen to somebody speak, you tend to receive something different because you're listening to a lecturer or an instructor or a broadcaster or whomever, your friend, and just how they speak, the tone of their voice, how they come across with whatever they're saying, gives you that extra added interest in whatever it is they're saying. Well, Audible is all about that. And the voiceover artists make the books interesting. Add the drama, add the comedic action. They engage you. Try it out. What do you have to lose? You don't even have to spend a dime. Nope. Go to audibletrial.com/take2 to receive your free audiobook and your 14-day free trial. 2 weeks, folks. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. The link, once again, is audibletrial.com/take2. You will be, seriously, you will be glad you did. All right, Ronnie, you ready to give us an association over there? I know you have quite a few, but
yeah,
let's start us off with one over there.
How about the very first war that was ever fought on sea? That was between Rome and Carthage, which is known today as Lebanon.
That's right.
It's called the Punic War, which started in 264 BC.
That is absolutely correct. Very nice. The Punic...
Just as the ships were being built.
Yup. We've come quite a ways from back then. Just a tad. Technologically wise and just about every other wise. That was a while back.
Back then you pretty much had to be paddle to paddle.
Yeah. You had to actually do the work in order to get from point A to point B on the sea. This time around, and these days, it's quite different, where you actually don't have to use the muscles that God gave you, because the technology does it all for you, gets you from point A to point B. So yeah, quite a bit different. So 264 BC, way back. Great association, Ronnie. All right, I've got one for you techies out there, and I've been waiting to do this one because this actually has to do with the network. It really does. And those of you that are video streamers out there, or those of you that enjoy watching Blu-ray discs, you know all about this very popular and actually gaining popularity. Over the last 3 years, it has been gaining popularity quite a bit. A video compression codec here. It's known as H.264. It's an MPEG-4. It's a Part 10 codec here. It is best known for Blu-ray discs. However, video streamers are starting to use it more now because more people actually have the capability of watching H.264. And people can... The thing is with video streaming, it's about compatibility. It's about whether or not you can look at whatever it is you're watching. Many people have used and still use to this day something called VP6, I believe it is, which is the comparison to an H.264 in terms of quality, because everybody could simply could watch that. That was before H.264 came into the picture, and more people were allowed to watch the streams or the content and so forth. You look at Blu-ray DVD or Blu-ray discs. Clearly, high definition quality there. So clearly, if a video stream is using an H.264 codec, what are you going to get? Quality. So that's why if more and more people continuously, which it's going to increase, the technology, clearly Flash is behind the H.264 codec. People that upgrade, more people are going to have the capability to watch video streaming, videos, content in general on the internet that uses the H.264 codec. It's going to improve the quality, and that's what's so great about it. So as we move away from VP6 and VP7 into the H.264 era codec, you'll notice quite a bit of a difference. And so many video streamers are using H.264 now, although there are still a lot that are using VP6. Better to be safe than sorry. Maybe you want to make sure everybody can view your stream. Would you rather sacrifice that little bit of quality? Because it really isn't that big of a difference between VP6 and H.264. But if you did notice a majority, if not all of your audience did transfer over or did have the capability to view your content via H.264, would you do it? Of course. But if you want to be safe than sorry, you stick with VP6. It's definitely... or it was over the last few years, even more than that, preferred video compression format, which is used with the Flash player. That's right, Adobe Flash. So very cool. For you techies out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you don't, hopefully my explanation gave you more insight as to what it's all about. Very pertinent video codec. That's also comparable to VP6, another video codec. It's, in other words, long story short, how you view videos on the computer. Codec. All right.
Gotcha.
Lonnie, what about a funny law? Do you have one over there for us? I know you have one or two, right? Yeah.
I have one that was pertaining to this episode here. North Carolina state law. Get this, state law.
Yeah.
Falls under Chapter 42A, subsection 264, passed in 1988. I don't know what's wrong with these people. State law mandates that all couples staying in rooms for one night, hotels, must be kept in a room with double beds that is a minimum of 2 feet apart, and making love on the floor between the beds is strictly forbidden.
Why would you make love on the floor when you have 2 beds? Pick a bed. Pick a bed, seriously.
I don't know. I guess you fall off. I don't know.
See, that's the solution.
You have to have 2 beds in there. The minimum is 2 feet apart.
2 feet apart.
And yes, on the floor is, I don't know.
See, that's stupid. That's a dumb law because there's a solution to that problem right there. So you don't want people sleeping in the same bed because you're basically providing them one tool only, one bed. Well, they're clearly going to have to sleep together. How else are they going to sleep unless somebody sleeps on the floor? Give them 2 beds. Okay, come over here. Use my bed. That's all you need to do. Solution to the problem right there.
I mean, what are they going to do? Send the hotel maid police in there to find out what's going on in the room? What is it any of their business to begin with? I mean, some of the laws that function against morality. And 1988, no less. Weren't we past that at that point
absolutely.
In time?
That's why they made locks, by the way, Ronnie. That's why they make locks.
Yeah.
So, lock the heck out of your door. Share a bed with your lover. And have a good time.
Isn't that when the do not disturb sign was invented?
That too. But then again, I feel more comfortable, more secure with a lock on the door than the do not disturb sign.
But still.
I'll take both, actually. But yeah, that's why they make locks. What's your other funny law? Do you have another one?
That's all it was associated
really?
Today. You know, though they're getting kind of a little bit
They're
different.
getting tougher? They're getting tougher because as we move up, or what? Are
yeah,
you telling...
as you get up, because each state has their own specific codes, and super, different numerations, and so you have to go through each law to find out where they're located at, whether it's state, ordinance, city, or federal.
Very cool. No, thank you for that, Ronnie. Your associations. You enjoyed this part of the show, as always. A very fun part of the show. It is now time to get into Ronnie's stamp of reparation. So, Ronnie, you've got the mic. What do you got for us? This 264th episode of the show.
I've got someone who is a big pain in the caboodie, and it's just not in mine, but apparently in a lot of other landlords that are out there in the world that have to put up with house squatters. Squatters actually pick up, they have their own family, mind you, move into a home, rent it for 2 months, and stop paying rent. And the next thing you know, the landlord is up against a hell for the next 2 years, 3 years, or however long they want to keep you into the court system. But how about 19 years? There is a man, family, whole entire ball game here. Is from New Jersey, Newark to be exact. His name is he infuriates me. Mark Newton, who happens to have no law degree, which, by the way, legally, you do not have to have a law degree to represent yourself or somebody else in court in a civil proceeding. In this instance, he has been able to successfully take his landlords to trial, to civil court, and fight them on basically the letter of the law that we have in the United States. The politicians have actually placed into action. They gave the little guy the upper hand over the big guy. Only problem is here, usually the little guy is your landlord as well. This guy, his wife, 2 children, who, by the way, help him in the courtroom. He is his own worst enemy. He goes before the judge, takes these people to court for obscene things that you can imagine. He will move into their home, destroy it. Now, mind you, the home is perfectly fine when he moves in there. He has no problem of taking advantage of the home. But when it comes time for rent, guess what? There is no rent to be had. He does not pay the rent. Instead, he will destroy the house, contact for civil ordinance procedures, you name it, go to court, file it. I looked this guy up, and if you Google this man, Mark Newton, he is all over the internet. So I'm surprised that the landlords did not take precedence in doing this themselves, because a lot of them have been had, including Wells Fargo. They actually had to bring this guy to court to try to evict them. And guess what? They lost because they could not prove that they had actual ownership of a home that was repossessed. He still lives there. His wife, on the other hand, has also had to serve her little mature time in a courtroom, only hers ended up behind bars.
Right.
But they have 2 children. Their son goes to court, by the way, no law degree, and assists his father to go in there. He has humiliated the tenant association. He has humiliated the justice system. 19 years. The judges have a specific docket that has to be followed. And you know what? That's your tax dollars, my tax dollars, not at work. Because the judge, he doesn't like the judge. He thinks the system is against him. Oh, imagine that. He would think something such as this. He is the house squatter. People have spent up to $60,000 fighting this guy in court to have him removed from the premises. That disgusts me.
It's a shame.
I want to know why none of these judges are talking to each other. He even went as far as suing the Star Ledger on NJ.com not to be able to produce this story. He didn't want the story out there. So what does that have to show to you?
The thing is, though, he doesn't want the story out there. All you have to do, you brought it up, is look his name up on Google. And just seeing somebody involved in that many lawsuits would kind of lead you to believe that something is not right here. Right?
Seriously.
So,
but he's doing it legally. That's the problem. Because he can take you to court and just finagle you into all sorts of things, but he's actually destroying the property, saying, okay, you can't live in it. But yet, he's the one that's destroying it. His wife actually set a house on fire that they were living in and were successfully evicted after 3 years. They set it on fire. How? I mean, come on. And nobody stood up to do anything. I mean, I know that judges do not talk to each other from court to court to court. They have too many cases. The docket is full. They do not talk to each other. But I think with this article out and getting this out about this person, Mark Newton, put that on your docket and remember that name, because I'm telling you what, he's going to be in the news quite a bit after this day.
I guess it's quite impervious in terms of whether or not this guy's actually ever going to be able to sign in to a hotel or an apartment ever again in his life. If anybody is going to, if anybody's going to chance having this guy stay in an apartment, I don't think anybody would. Would you? No, I don't think so. So I don't think he's going to be. So, right.
Oh, the one child they actually had removed for their custody because he was malnourished and lost all this weight. You know, well, we didn't know.
Right. Wow.
we thought he was losing a lot of weight, but they neglected their own child. But they're paying more attention to the criminal justice system because they're making a lot of money on it. He holds no job. As a matter of fact, he's on public assistance. He holds no job. He sues people for money successfully, representing himself in court.
I tell you, people that do, you wonder how, while what he may be doing is wrong, it's definitely, I guess, you want to say maybe innovative in an evil sense, creative in an evil sense, but very wrong. How he's getting through and getting away with this, but 19 years, wow. And he's made Superior Chancery, federal, and municipal courtrooms his virtual offices. Crazy. All right. We do have to head to the break on this 264th episode of the show. Thank you, Ronnie, as always. Appreciate hearing what you have to say and your stamp of reparation. But before we head to the break, let's see what we're going to be going into. Ronnie and I have quite a bit we're going to be talking about, including what essential items should anyone have in their home? Yeah. Well, we're going to host this kind of as a guide because some of you may be getting ready to live out on your own. You may have been living with your parents for so long. They've been focusing on what really you use every day in your house, so you really you didn't have to worry about what you have to buy: toilet paper, soap, paper towels, paper plates, etc. Certain food items. You've had it all. Now you live on your own. Nobody's going to be there to do it for you. Now you have to do it yourself. So we're going to talk about what are some of the essential items everyone should have in their home. We'll have some fun with it too. Also, we're going to lead into what essential items should you have in your car. What items should anybody have in their car? Also, we promised to go into this too. We were going to go into this on the last episode. Didn't have the time. Job interviews via Skype. Seeing that technology continues to advance, more and more of these interviews are being conducted via Skype. What can you do to prepare for an interview via Skype? How is it different to an actual face-to-face interview? We'll go into that as well as your blast from the past. Ronnie and I are going to return. You don't want to go anywhere, folks. You want to stay exactly right where you're at, because we have a lot coming up on this 264th episode of the show in the second segment. Ronnie and I return right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Folks, welcome back to episode number 264. That is right, episode number 264 of Take Two, right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ronnie and I are back for the second segment, and we really do have a lot coming up. We really do. So you're not going to want to go anywhere. We're going to be talking about what essential items anyone should have in their home. Anybody should have in their home. Say you're somebody that's living at home for some time and you're moving out, you're used to really having all of these essential items in your home because your parents have purchased them. You've already you've had them all the time. Well, what do you do? What do you do? What are some of the essential items you should have on your priority list? What about some useful items that may not be a priority, but you should still have? We'll talk about that as well as the car items. What should you have? Anybody should have in their car. And, of course, the job interviews via Skype. More and more being conducted, so we'll talk about that. So We have quite a bit coming up, but before we get into this, the itinerary for the second segment, if all of you would be so kind, as the great listeners under the Voices on the Net Network, if you'd be so kind, please visit www.theonthenet.com, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the listeners, will be able to find more information pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network. All you need to do is go up to the About link, you click it, where you will reach a web page providing you everything you need to know pertaining to the network in thorough detail. And you can also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, all available on demand for and at your convenience. Yeah. You can check all of these great features out by going to www.theonthenet.com. That's www.theonthenet.com. Well, welcome back, Miss Ronnie.
Thank you, Mr. JJ.
You know, it's one thing to go through your days utilizing, useful items that may not be on a priority list, like the toilet paper and the soap, but you have certain items in your home that you wouldn't live without, clearly. And we'll go into those items. There are plenty of them. Items that you, if you say didn't have them, would affect your life in a negative way. You would clearly substitute an item of greater value for that necessity because of how great it is or how valuable it is in our lives. We live, say, with our parents for so long, and we're used to having value items nearby, priority items nearby at all times, really. And you don't have to worry about them being out of that. I guess the term would be in a retail environment, out of stock, but not having those items because you don't have to worry about purchasing them. You don't have to worry about purchasing those items because your parents do. But what about if you're say moving out? You're moving out, and you have to make the decisions as to what you want to buy. You live on your own, Ronnie, so you could actually attest to this. You could also give insight. This is going to be kind of used as a guide, whereas most people probably already know this, what to do. Many people probably live, on their own. They've already started their own system, if you want to say, whereas they know exactly what they need, what they don't have, et cetera, et cetera. What do you usually do when you notice something's maybe running out, or do you always make sure you have extra of something and so forth?
I make sure that I have extra, like the toilet paper, the toothbrush, the soap, shampoo, those types of necessities.
Right.
That I'm going to use every day. It's a habit, so you have it. So I have a pantry that has where they're supposed to be at. I might buy 2 or 3 products if it's on sale at one time and leave it there. Mm-hmm. And as I see it getting lower, then I put it on my list to go get. That is kind of like the routine that I use most of the time. But then there's things that I don't use regularly, or I forget that I actually need. I don't write them down and skip over it. And the next thing you know, I'm in trouble because, when I lived at home, all you had to do is ask your mom, or you open up the pantry door and there it was. Imagine living on your own and you open up the door and
nothing's there.
The restock theory never bothered to show up.
Right. I think it's kind of the perception that you think and I guess living on your own, this would be more the case because if you didn't, you'd probably have those items where you did open up the closet. Up there's the backup. There's an extra. Yeah. It's there. Yet you didn't do that. Somebody else did. You were used to having somebody else do the things for you. These things that you're now required to do on your own because now you live on your own. Whereas if you live on your own, you open it up, somebody didn't restock this. Wait a second, I'm the only one that lives here. So I'm the one that's supposed to do this. So now you're kind of forced to be proactive. You now have to make your own decisions. And maybe learning from your mistakes, maybe learning from sticky situations, not having an extra roll of toilet paper when you're on the can. Because obviously it's uncomfortable, it's unfortunate, but it definitely will make you remember the toilet paper the next time.
Yeah,
well, obviously. Or you can simply listen to what Ronnie and I have to say. This is really going to be used as a guide, and I think it's going to help I really do think it's going to help more people than those that may already know about this, because there are common sense moments in everyone's lives, as the philosopher JJ once said. But yeah, there are common sense moments in our lives where, as common sense as they may be, they're still tedious if you have to remember something to buy, or you have to remember to do something. As easy as it is to remember at the time, if it double crosses you, or not crosses your mind, in other words, it might be more tedious than you think. And these items that everybody should have in their home definitely could cross anybody's mind, regardless of whether you're a genius, whether you're not, whether you're as proactive as you think you are, more proactive than others, whatever. So you start off with the priority items, and many people may prioritize these items on a certain piece of paper, categorize them in certain lists and so forth. However, how about just adding these specific items under priority? And I think there are people that don't do this. They do it the opposite, the other way, the way that, in other words, you would maybe put soap above paper towels, toilet paper above soap, and you focus on those items. Say the financial situation isn't as great. You need to kind of hold back and only purchase the items that you need. Well, the group under priority, those all are items you need extra of, because you don't want to be caught in a sticky situation without any of those items. And believe me, the financial situation isn't as bad as you think it is, where you can't afford items on that priority list: toilet paper, soap, paper towels, paper plates, and so forth. We're going to go over more of these items. Those are clearly the ones that are self-explanatory. What are some other items that you would add under that one category, that one list, Ronnie?
Light bulbs.
Light bulbs.
I don't know how many times I will take a light bulb out of one socket and put it in another one that's blown. Right. Next thing you know, the only thing that's lit up is my studio, because I've used all of the other light bulbs.
And yeah, you're reaching into another lamp to get a light bulb that you need, because the one that you need at the time I mentioned, is out. But eventually you're going to run across that light bulb that you just took out of a lamp, and you're going to need light in that specific location of the room. So you focus on taking a light bulb out of that one, putting it in on another one. Now you need it in that light bulb. Remember, you took the light bulb out of that lamp, remember. So you need it there now. You have to go to another lamp, take that light bulb out, put it there. And some of them are different watts. Some of them are more powerful than others. Just buy light bulbs. Those are so essential. Those deserve to be under the same list as soap and toilet paper, having light bulbs.
I've changed I don't know how many times. Just borrow from one room to the next room. And the next thing you know, you're down to nothing. And so you're wasting more time for gas. You have to go to the store to go find some more. And you're hoping for a cheap 4-pack and bring it home. But then even then, it's not enough. Yeah. They blow out quite frequently.
And if you want to be proactive, how many times have you placed a light bulb in your lamp, and it's 2 days? 2 days you're clocking it as, and the light bulb goes out because you didn't have a surge protector. You could save money in the long run by buying a surge protector, which in my opinion is another essential item. You could save money in the long run by having that lamp that blew out 2 days after you put the light bulb in the lamp. You could save money in the long term by being proactive, by hooking that lamp, plugging that lamp into the surge protector where it won't blow the light out. Therefore, you don't have to go through light bulbs one after the other, where you're going through them quicker than you should. So having a surge protector is important in my opinion. And that goes for other items too. It has to do with light bulbs specifically, because they could go out because of too much power, because of a surge in your home. If you have a surge protector and your power goes out, the surge protector more than likely is going to protect the lamp, and the lamp will turn on after the power goes back on. You don't have a surge protector protecting the lamp or any other products. Imagine my studio. Imagine your studio, Ronnie, without any surge protectors, and you're just having a power surge. Imagine your computer's screwing up. Imagine that. One little device can save so many products, so many items.
The number one thing that I think that I have a shortage of is extension cords, because I like to move things around and change my scenery, whether it's me moving furniture or readjusting things around. I never have enough extension cords. I find myself having to rearrange according to where the source is. So I end up having to have I need a lot more extension cords than what I have presently.
Yeah, I could tell you that. I could attest to that because of the amount of cords that I have in my studio alone. But having extension cords can definitely, well, it's not, in my opinion, as essential as a surge protector. Still an item that you should have, extension cords. You want to at least have a couple of them in your home. Mm-hmm. You never know when you're going to need one, of course. What about how many times have you run across something that needs to be unscrewed, but you don't have a screwdriver? and I know it's maybe it's not so crazy to bring up, because having a multi-head screwdriver really is important, or having a set of screwdrivers. But now they've come so far with screwdrivers and so forth that multi-head screwdrivers can save you space too. They're cheaper, and they'll do the same. They'll do the same thing that 5 or 6 screwdrivers will do. If you were to change the head of the screwdriver, because different items require different screwdrivers and so forth.
True, and I have an example of that because my grandfather was here and asked me for a screwdriver. I handed him a butter knife because that is what I use as a screwdriver. It fits all heads, and I use it to... It didn't fly with him. He actually went out and bought me a little set, but that was my screwdriver before the real ones arrived.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think having screwdrivers are essential. What about any other items you have on your list that you would need in your house?
With me, it is batteries, because I do the same thing with light bulbs. I borrow it from one source and put it into another source. Even though I have a rechargeable, some of them are rechargeable, I forget to put them in there, and I'm a total lost cause with that, because when I was at home, all that was already done for me. I didn't have to plug in the rechargeable unit and put the batteries back in there. And so that is a big one. Big doozy that I think you should have, because when you have a storm coming along, you need that. You need the batteries.
Right. But when you say taking batteries out of other devices or out of the remote control, out of the mouse, because you don't have batteries, and remember, you didn't have that problem because when you lived with your parents, or you lived with somebody that always took care of these problems or these issues that don't turn into problems, but they took care of what was needed to be taken care of, a la buying batteries, always having in stock batteries, different types of batteries, because we live in a digital age. We live in a technological world. Just about everything we have runs on batteries, right?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you have them, because more than likely, if you take batteries out of something that you don't need at the time and put it in something that you do need at that time, more than likely you're going to walk around, or you're going to come back to that item you took the batteries out of to put in the item that you needed. You're going to come back to that, and you're going to need it eventually. So you're going to now have to find another device, or take it out of the device you just took those batteries out to replace with and put them back into that device.
Yeah.
Which, really, you're just going in a circle there. While I guess it could work temporarily, you probably would rather have batteries. And I'll tell you, they have so many different great deals out there. Batteries really aren't as expensive as they used to be, and there are so many different brands now that you can say, even so. You want to make sure, and I understand there are a lot of people, and it's easy to spend other people's money, but it's essential to have certain items where you know you're going to be all right, because batteries can be placed in something else that is needed, in my opinion, and that's a flashlight. If you don't have a flashlight and the power goes out and you don't have candles nearby, you're going to be in the dark. and you're not going to be able to see if it's dark out. So if you don't have a candle nearby, you're going to be bumping your head if you stub your toe or you bump your knee or something like that. You don't have batteries, you ain't going to power that flashlight. So one thing powers the other. And on this, and on we go, this, as they say in the mob, this thing of ours, it's really needed, necessary. That's why these are essential items. You think of what can happen if you don't have these items, right?
Exactly. Because those types of items, such as the batteries, the light bulbs, and things, there's something that we can do a quick fix for, because you could transfer it from one unit to another unit, and then you forget about it. Right. So it's out of sight, out of mind, because the emergency that you had of needing light or needing a power source is gone. So when you go to the store, you forget about that. But if you just keep a note out, I have learned to do this finally, is to keep a note on my refrigerator and write down as I run out that I have to replace these. Right.
It's one thing to have, say, an item that's, say, in the category of non-durable. Back when I was in my marketing class, there were classification of certain products, consumer products, that is. Marketers classify these products as a means of better understanding how consumers make these decisions, purchase decisions. For instance, I said a list, and you could categorize certain items under certain categories. You've got durable items, you've got non-durable items, you've got your convenience products, such as impulse items, such as candy bars, emergency products, such as the drain opener. That's kind of essential in terms of a convenience product. What about you go into the non-durable items like the toothpaste, the items that are going to provide you a benefit over a short period of time, versus the durable items such as a refrigerator, over a longer period of time. So these are all different classifications, categories of these items that marketers use to classify products, but even consumers that purchase these products should utilize something like this, a classification of these products, because if you live on your own, you're going to be glad you did have those items, such as toilet paper, such as a flashlight, light bulbs, batteries, soap, paper towels, paper plates, and so much more. You're going to wish you had these items. And remember, you're the one making the decisions now, so you have to be proactive.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do, because when you're at home, these decisions are made for you, and if you make a bad decision, you don't really have to be responsible for that decision, because someone's there to back you up or assist with replacing or repairing the decision that you made. But then when you're on your own, because you can't wait till you're out on your own, you don't have to answer anybody or do anything, and you find out you were just so wrong. You still have to answer to people, especially to yourself, and now you are held accountable.
How many times have you just been hanging out, you're comfortable in your seat, you don't want to get up, and you need to wash your hands, but you don't want to go to the bathroom, you don't want to go into the kitchen to wash your hands because you're comfortable. You wished you had something like this, if you're watching what I'm holding up here, and that's the hand sanitizer. Beneficial and essential item, because you're not always going to want to get up. And how many times should you wash your hands every day? Well, if you were to go by that, you'd be up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. You have the hand sanitizer by you. Well, you don't have to stress yourself out as much. So in my opinion, anybody should have hand sanitizer, at least one by them. And some people, like yourself, I believe, have one in every room. So
every room.
Those are essential items, the hand sanitizers. And they're so cheap. You get them for under $1. They're so great to have. What about another item that you would have in your home? Essential.
Work gloves. Okay. Not necessarily for work, but I'm talking about if there's a mess that you need to clean up, if there's this garbage spill, or something is needing to be done in the house, and you don't want your hands touching it. Of course, you wouldn't want your hands touching it. Or outside, you have things to do, or if you have pets or whatever, gloves are essential. Because I don't know how many times that either I've gone outside and the neighbor's pets or whatever have gotten into the trash, and it required you to pick up the trash and put it away.
Cat.
No gloves.
Or the cat craps on the rug and you need to clean it up.
Yeah, and you got nothing. Yeah.
Yup. Sometimes the paper towels aren't enough. Sometimes you need the paper towels and the gloves when you're picking up the cat crap that the poor cat had diarrhea and she dumped all over the rug, and it wasn't exactly a fun sight or a smell. But you'd be glad you had the gloves with the paper towels rather than just one. More than likely, you would rather have the gloves over the paper towels. But if you could have both, I think you'd be happy that you'd have both. What about something else? What about, listen to this. We're talking about having these essential items in our homes, because you never want to be without them. You want to make sure that you're always safe in terms of the amount of items you have, clearly, but more or less now than it was, say, 5 to 10 years ago, a USB flash drive. And the thing is, I bring this up still because I would rather people do both. I do both, and I hope Ronnie does both too. But having a backup of your files, because if ever you were to notice that there was a fire, for instance, in your home, or a flood, and you lost these files that you love so much, that are so valuable, right? You have a USB flash drive, you have, say, a backup online somewhere. If you don't have a backup online, at least you have the USB flash drive. USB flash drives are comparable to hard drives these days, the amount of storage they get old. So I would have a USB flash drive.
I need to take you up on that then, because that's something I do not have.
You don't have a USB flash drive?
No.
Right. Wow.
So that's nothing I need to get a hold of. But I learned this morning that I really needed something very important and valuable. That was a shop vac.
Yeah. A shop vac. Yep.
Liquid, please. Okay, water floods. This thing actually does its job. I did not have one, and I had water all over my laundry floor because of a busted water heater. And I actually had to go to my neighbor's house to get hers, thank God she was up, or else my floor would have been ruined.
Right. I'll tell you, it's amazing the amount. And there's so many more items out there. It's just we are obviously stuck for time here. We got to move into some of the items we would keep in our cars. But yeah, you think of the shop vac. How many times? You could probably count them on your hand, the amount of times you're going to use the shop vac. But you'd be glad you had it if you do need it. If you have a problem such as a flood, that the shop vac might not be under the same category as, say, soap and toilet paper and so forth, but it is an essential item. It is an item that you'd wish you'd have. How many times are you going to borrow it from somebody because you don't have one? You wish you maybe did have certain items.
Because you can't pick it up. There's no way to pick up water with a vacuum cleaner.
No. It'd be pretty difficult, that's for sure. How about we switch here to the car? We focus on the house, and clearly all of these essential items are great to have in the home. Surge protectors, extension cords, screwdrivers, hand sanitizers. Whether it's just any of those items are essential. But what about if you're in the car? You're driving. You're on the road. It's not as you're stationary in your home where you have first off, more storage for these items that you would store. Clearly, many of the items you may have in the home you'd like to have in your car, especially if you're hundreds of miles away from home. You want to have your convenience items nearby. You do. Clearly, a cell phone, something that we all pretty much have. Always make sure you have the cell phone charged, having maybe as much as the cell phone is valuable to you, a cord that will plug into your car's lighter socket. Make sure you have a way to charge that phone. The phone is great, but it isn't that useful if you don't have a way to use the phone, and that's what that cord is for. So many people would characterize the cord even more valuable than the phone. So it's just, I'd have the cord. Notice how I twisted that there a bit for you, which is true. You think about it. Am I right or am I right?
You're right.
Think about it.
I think the most important thing to keep, and this goes for anybody. I mean, it's cheap. It might cost you $4, maybe $5. I have one, and that is if you are. Let's just say that your car accidentally goes into the water and you're going under.
Right.
And most cars are electronic now.
Right.
They will not roll down once they are exposed to water. So you are done inside this vehicle. And then you have to wait until it's fully immersed before you can actually open up the doors. But you have what is called a life hammer. It's also called a window squisher. That it's just a shape of a pen, just a normal everyday pen, and you push it against the window.
Right.
And it automatically breaks the window out when one spontaneous hit and away from you and not towards you. So you're able to get out of your car because you never know what's going to happen to you.
I know.
And what it's going to take to get out of that vehicle. And also, if you happen to be female or male, for that matter, and happened to get stuck in a trunk, if you were a victim in some way, there's a Snap-a-Lock that is very cheap. We're talking about maybe less than $10 in most areas.
Yeah.
That you can emergency get out of that trunk in very limited amount of time.
That's a great point you bring up, and pertaining more to the safety aspect, even though these are essential items, you never know when you're going to be strapped in with your seatbelt on. If you get into, unfortunately, you get into an accident and you can't get free and your car's on fire, you're going to wish you had something to cut that seatbelt. What about having something that's sharp, maybe not necessarily a knife, but an item that would cut that seatbelt so you could get out? Something that, right, you want to make sure that you have, even if it's a tool of some sort. And I don't want to say to carry a knife, because you ever get pulled over and the cop sees you have a knife in the car, they're going to suspect you of something. I mean, you could plead your case as much as you want. So maybe you want to play it a little lower key. Ronnie, what did you say, a box cutter?
Yeah, box cutter. Anything less than 3 inches, they can get you on anyway.
Right.
It's not concealed.
Right. So, then again, that's a good point. But you want to make sure you have something that's going to cut that seatbelt, because you don't want to be stuck in your car when you've gotten into an accident. You need to get out quick. Surely the paramedics, the firefighters, they'll be there soon. They'll be able to get you out.
Yes.
You want to be able to get yourself out if you have the ability to do so.
There's a secret to that. Instead of, I learned this in excavation classes, you do not cut your seatbelt sideways. You cut it in a diagonal.
Yeah.
Because it goes against the grain. If you're doing it sideways, you're never going to get out of there. If you do a diagonal, you're actually easier cutting going down through.
Somebody in the chat room said they do make a seatbelt cutter just for those situations. So, and I don't know why I didn't think of this. Obviously, it's clear that they would make something like that, where you wouldn't have to carry a knife. But yeah, a seatbelt cutter, absolutely. What about anything else that you would use before we move on?
A flare. You ever have a tire that you need to change, trouble along the side of the road, you have to get out of your car to let people know? Because I don't know how many people have been injured, if not killed,
right? Because
they've had their car out, either their flashers are not working, they're not being able to see because they're just over the hill and did not have any flares to warn traffic. So flares is a must.
Yeah, I usually tell people to keep flares in their cars. You'd be surprised how many people don't have them in their cars because they feel they're not a necessity. They feel their car lights are enough. Well, in many cases, they're not. And you'd be wishing, and I tell you, I have experience with this because the amount of times that I've driven myself up to when my sister was in college in Pennsylvania, driving Route 80 in a blizzard, you wish you had flares. Having the flares that I did use, just so trucks that are coming at 60 to 80 miles an hour see where I am, so they don't ram into me in the blizzard. You literally are holding onto your breath. Even with the flares out there, you want to make sure you obviously have flares. What about a first aid kit? And you know what? This is something this is common sense, that if you don't have a first aid kit, Band-Aids or medicine in the car, clearly you're not thinking straight. You're not thinking, because you never know when the car is going to break down, especially if you're hundreds of miles away from home. Maybe not so much if you're 5 miles away from home, but if you are, even if you are 5 miles away from home, you're going to hope you had what you had at home. Even if you're 1 mile away from home, you're still going to have to walk a mile to get home to get those items. Have them in the car. Have them in the car. Seriously.
Yeah, that and blankets. Now, being an Army brat that I am,
right,
blankets is the number one thing, because I have lived in different states that have different types of weather circulations. But if your car stalls for any reason, especially if it's during a blizzard, as you mentioned before, a blanket is needed, because your heat's not going to stay on forever.
It really isn't. It really isn't. You just, you want to make sure that you're set. You're set to go. You're set to do what you need to do if you get into a sticky situation on the road. And I'm glad that we did go into this. Hope those of you tuned in learned something. Hope you gained something from this. And clearly there are a lot of other items. And because of this, of how important these items are, if you check www.vonthenet.com, right after the show's over, I'm going to post necessities, both the home and your car, that you should have. I will do that for you. So after the show's over, so if you're listening to this, the podcast or so forth, more than likely it's been added. www.vonthenet.com. All right, folks, we're going to move on to the next item on the itinerary before moving into the blast from the past. We'll spend some time with this one. Job interviews via Skype, yeah. So many people are actually having to go through this because, well, clearly companies want to save money. They don't have all of this money to spend. You'd think, how much does it cost for somebody to come in and talk to you? Well, if they could save any money, it's something, I guess. Well, if you can see the person and it's high quality, we know how far webcams have come and microphones. Why don't you just conduct it online via Skype? Well, we're going to talk about job interviews on the computer via your webcam. How do you prep for something like this? Well, we're going to talk about it in just a moment, but first, it is time to thank our sponsor. Yeah, this portion of the 264th episode of Take Two is brought to you by Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program, as well as the Voices on the Net network. And with over 85,000 audiobooks to choose from. Yeah, 85,000 and counting. A great service. Ronnie and I have one heck of a deal for you, where you're not going to have to spend a dime. You don't have to spend a dime to take advantage of this great offer either. Where you'll receive one free audiobook as well as a 14-day free trial. That's 2 weeks, folks, to browse the selection of audiobooks offered at Audible.com. In order to receive this great deal, you go to audibletrial.com/take2. That is audibletrial.com/take2. You'd be glad you did, because even if you're not an avid reader, say you read a book once every blue moon, or you pick up a magazine, or you read some articles every now online, think to yourself, do you ever talk while you read? Do you ever read the words back to you? Maybe you retain information better if you're listening to somebody rather than traditionally reading. Well, even if you do traditionally reading, it benefits you more than, say, the opposite. More than likely, if you're listening to a lecturer or a teacher or an instructor or just somebody in general, a friend you're talking to, you may get a different story because of the tone that individual is using. You're noticing that you're more engaged by how somebody is presenting whatever they're saying to you. That really makes a big difference. It really does. That's what these voiceover artists that voice these projects, these books at Audible are doing. They add drama, the comedic value, the engagement to these books. You got to try them out for yourself, and you really have nothing to lose. You get a free audiobook, a 14-day free trial, the previews you could check out before even buying these books or trying them out for that matter. They're all there, 85,000 plus of them. Check them out. Check this service out. You'd be glad you did. audibletrial.com/take2. Don't wait any longer. As always, we thank Audible for their support of Take Two, as well as the Voices on the Net network. All right, so Ronnie, job interviews via Skype. And the thing is, how many people now are experiencing this as opposed to 5 years ago? And back in 2009, I read an article that had to do with job interviews being conducted via Skype. So over the last couple of years, more and more companies, even back in 2009, if you were to compare it to back in 2009, are now conducting their interviews via Skype. How would you?
I didn't realize that.
Right. You would think that to be more professional, you would want to sit face to face with the person you may be working with. But cameras are so much better these days that even if it's a little money saved, not only for the company, but for the potential employee, you don't have to spend gas to go to this job. You could simply conduct the interview, and also what they can do is they can find out who they're going to be speaking with face-to-face in a pre-interview by having them speak via the webcam, knowing who they are, how they look, how they present themselves. Then you can make your decision more. It's a more meticulous decision rather than just looking at a resume and saying, listen, I want this one to come in. I want this one to come in. You can actually see the person before actually coming in, having them come in to speak to you.
Yeah, and think how much more ease it is for the person being interviewed. Because I know when I've gone through job interviews, I'd be terrified.
Right.
Because I was not in my own comfortable surroundings. I was in an office, cold usually office, and you don't know anybody. You're trying to make an impression, but you feel like you're on the defensive end of it. I think doing it on Skype, it leaves you into a more of a comfort zone to where you're not put so much out there on a handle where there's nobody there that you don't know. You're actually in your own comfort zone to where I think that the answers in the interview is more personable than it was in person, because in person you don't know this person, and it is a scary thing to go through.
Right, and I'm glad you brought up that. I'm glad you brought up the comfort of somebody's home, because you usually, when you're in the comfort of your own home, whether you're conducting a phone call, whether you're talking with a friend, versus if you're out of your own confinement, of course, your home, you're going to notice that you're more comfortable with whatever it is you're doing, and your tone of voice. You're not nervous in general because you know you're around your surroundings. Now, these bosses, these employers that are conducting these interviews, they may not be getting the full gist because these people are within the confines of their own home, the comfort of their own home, within the comfort of their own home. But if they're conducting a pre-interview, all they really want to see, they want to see who you are. And they're going to, of course, receive your personality. But again, they do take into account you are in the comfort of your own home. You are at home more than likely. And if you're in an office or somewhere else, well, I'm sure they'll find that out because they'll ask you where you are. This is simply, I think, for more case than less of a case, is that they are conducting these interviews as more of a pre-interview because they want to be able to see who they're speaking with. Who they might be working with, who they may be working with. They conduct a face-to-face interview eventually, but now they can actually see the person. Kind of asking them to send in a picture is kind of fishy. So rather than that, you just have them conduct a pre-interview. It is still professional. You're going to dress up because you're on camera, and they get to find out a bit about you.
Yeah, they do. Because when you fill out a resume and you send it to them, they don't really, all they know is what they're seeing on paper.
Right.
You're not a person yet. You're just somebody in ink writing your stuff down. And I think this is a great benefit to both the employer and to the applicant, because the employer has the benefit of going through and selecting, whether or not you meet the qualifications via the paper. And now they can actually see you for themselves on camera, on cam, as to who you are, as far as putting a face to the words and interviewing you. Now, if you're in your comfort of your own home, you're more apt to be able to kind of maybe sidestep some of the questions because you're on your game, you're in your environment. That might put a little bit of clinch towards the employer, but that is able for them to go ahead and make a checklist of who they actually want to come in and to interview for that process. So it's a good canceling out progress of who they want and who they don't want.
Right. Now, even though you're within the comfort of your own home, it's your home, and you know that you're going to be safe within your own home, it still doesn't deprivate the fact that you have to make sure there aren't any distractions around when you're conducting this interview. And your boss is going to be noticing any of these distractions, such as your dog barking in the background, or somebody that maybe blowing leaves right outside your room, and it overwhelms the microphone. Or something along the lines of that. You want to make sure that there aren't any distractions, and it's one thing to have a crappy connection, and this is really something you can't help. And I think your boss would understand that. You have fuzzy transmission, or for instance, a dropped call on Skype. It happens all the time. Your internet service provider is in charge of that. But if your dog starts to bark, whereas you knew the interview was going to be conducted, well, they're going to place the blame on you, and then they're going to think, is this person really responsible if they didn't take care of this business before the interview? Seriously, if you think about it. So it's important to understand those factors too, even within the comforts of your own home, the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, not to mention the fact, I think that the other distraction that needs to be prevented is clean up your environment. Because when you're going on a camera, they're not only looking at you, they're looking at what they're seeing in the screen of you on the computer. So if let's just say that you haven't cleaned your house and it's all trash, you got crap all over the place, they're looking at it, that and not actually at you, and that kind of gives a bad impression on you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, there's a great list here on CNN Money that goes into a few of the things you should focus on if you're using Skype. Then again, any other program would probably be similar, comparable, because more than likely you're going to have to choose a username. Number one, choose a professional username. Party Animal 2011 or Hot Pants 33 probably not going to be the preferred username on Skype. Even though, do they really? And it's amazing because if they're now this is just what they recommend you do. However, is a boss or an employer going to really define somebody based on their username? And can you really define somebody based on their username? I believe we've talked about that before, basing somebody off of their personality, off of their AOL screen name or their AIM screen name or their Skype username. Well, the employers are going to do the same thing. So to be safe,
that's right,
choosing a professional username on Skype. Number two, practice talking to your computer. Now, I'm used to this. You're used to this. We talk to a camera. We're really talking to, people out there, listeners. But we're in front of a camera, talking in front of your camera. And somebody, I was watching a video, actually recommended if you're nervous and it's awkward speaking in front of a camera, cut out a little hole out of a picture of one of your friends, place it over the little camera, and it acts as if you're talking to your friend. It's more comforting for you. I was watching a video somewhere, and they recommended that. Some professional recommended that. I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah, pretty unique.
Yeah, it practices looking, plus eye contact.
Right.
Looking at that picture, you're able to look at their eyes, because I know when you're in person, it's best to have that direct eye contact. That means that you're serious, you're not distracted, that you're more honest, you're more sincere in your responses to the employer that is interviewing you. So looking at them in the eye, which, looking at a picture in the eye, it would be the same thing because they're in the same camera view.
Yeah, absolutely. And because people, even if you're face-to-face with somebody, you could tell when somebody isn't comfortable just based on their eye contact. You really can. You can, because somebody that is talking to, say, somebody, and they look up when they're talking, you make the other person seem uncomfortable when you do that. Looking them straight in the eye, and believe it or not, that is a challenge for so many people when they're speaking. You give yourself a little test, or conduct your own little study. Find out the next time you talk to the next 5 people, how many of them have difficulty speaking in person. Eye contact. Are they maintaining eye contact? Are they making you feel comfortable? Are they looking at you when they speak? Number 3, arrange the right setting. They actually add emphasis to this. They really do, because defining this, they want to make sure that you're putting everything you have, just like you would into your attire to go to a professional interview or just an interview with your employer. You're going to look nice. You're going to make sure your hair is parted. You're going to make sure your face, is clean. You're going to shave. You're going to make sure you're wearing nice clothes. So arranging the right setting is in many ways similar to arranging what you're going to wear if you're going to an interview at your employer actually. So they want to make sure that you're putting some thought behind this. If you're going to be Skyping from home or your office or so forth, they don't want distracting objects, movement, or even sound. That has to do that. So I guess my backdrop's out of the question. I suppose maybe you have more of an undistracting one, undistractive one backdrop, right?
Just put a cover over it.
Really, I guess. You know what I'm talking about, though? Somebody that is Skyping from home or their office, they may position themselves so that there's a nice plant in the back.
Yeah.
And maybe part of a window where it's giving you enough sunlight, that it's similar to a movie scene if you think about it.
Yeah,
You're trying to make it perfect.
Because you don't want them looking at other things. Like if they're looking behind you, oh, what does that say? What does that say? And they're not listening to what you're saying. They're distracted. So you don't want anything behind you or around you that's going to distract the person's interview. You want them to interview you, not the words on a wall.
You want to make sure that it's the most undistracted backdrop, but you want it to be professional. Number 4, block out interruptions. That's self-explanatory, clearly sounds and so forth. Number 5, back it up a little. I was watching a video, Ronnie, where the professional, the coach, was teaching this individual that was preparing for the Skype interview to position themselves. Don't necessarily sit straight because it looks like a mugshot, he said. Position yourself a little to the left or right while looking at the camera straight. Similar to when you're taking a picture. Somebody taking a picture, you know how you would sit a little slanted and then you would look straight at the camera? They actually recommended that when you're in front of the camera. And posture plays a big role. Slouching, no. Straight up, good. So back it up a little. Obviously, you don't want to be right on top of the camera. That's self-explanatory too. But yeah. Number 5 is back it up a little. Number 6, make virtual eye contact, and we went into that. Really, talking about how it's similar to talking to somebody face to face.
Yeah, it is. You're looking at it right up, even though you're not face to face. It shows honesty and I think respect. If you're looking at them in the eye, you're attentive to what they're saying. Yep.
All right, we're going to go into your blast from the past here. Just wanted to go into that briefly. Because there are ways to prepare for an interview via Skype. And I think really what it comes down to is acting, of course, who you are, being who you are, because technology, we have the tools to do so much more these days, which wouldn't have even been thought of not too long ago even. And utilizing these tools while still being yourself and acting as if you were actually in front of your employer is important, because you're in the comfort of your own home. You're in front of a camera and you're not physically in front of the boss that's interviewing you. Whereas if you were physically in front of your boss, how would you conduct yourself in the office? Well, maybe you should think of that, because that's exactly what the boss wants from you when you're at home conducting or being interviewed by the boss that's conducting that very interview. So it's important to just prepare for it, really. And hopefully what Ronnie and I brought up helped you out. All right, let's head into the past here, Ronnie. A blast from the past, a past discussion that you and I went into. What do you say? Want to head into the past?
I'm ready to head into that past. Let's see what's going on.
Alrighty, folks, ladies and gents, for episode number 264, Ronnie and I present to all of you the all-important blast from the past. Enjoy. Listen, there are over 500 million users on Facebook. 500 million users on Facebook. Obviously, some of them have to die, right? I mean, people die.
Eventually.
Okay? So if you think about it, yeah, there are going to be millions dying every year on Facebook. Well, in 2011, it is stated factually that 1.78 million users are going to die. Let's just hope it's none of us. How's that, okay?
Yeah.
Listen, you know, when you bring up the pun, no pun intended, but whether Facebook really does have more than 500 million quote-unquote active users, right? You know, how many of those Facebook profiles are from users that have passed on, you know?
Probably are.
Right?
Because you have the memorial sites. You have sites that even people, one person can have 3 or 4 different sites of.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure what they're going to term as active. It's these people that actually started accounts, because you don't know who is who out there, whether or not they are the same person. One person can have 10 accounts. One person could be expired and they don't have a way of getting it off, no way of doing it. So are they actually active? Right. Of course, they dictate active as being some kind of activity once in every 30 days.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't know, but you got 5 million people in the United States alone. So you could consider 500 million. So someone's bound to die eventually, right?
Someone's bound to croak, obviously. It's interesting that you bring that up, Ronnie, because a recent Gartner report estimated that in the coming years, roughly 1 out of every 10 of your friends on Facebook and other social networking sites will be non-human, meaning they'll be social bots, okay? Business bots. Business bots, social bots, these are automated robots that simply add friends automatically for business purposes, to try and market your company or your product or your service, et cetera, okay? These are automated profiles created by brands and organizations to, in other words, engage their customers, their customer base. However, getting away from that, there are still hundreds of millions of people on Facebook, which means there are going to be some users that die. And in 2011, they state 1.78 million of them are going to die. Now, there's an article on CNN.com, a great article that we're kind of jolting this conversation off of this here, the conversation Ronnie and I are going into right here, that Facebook defines an active user as one who has logged in within the last 30 days. Thus, a month after a user passes away, the user is no longer considered active. Appropriately, duh. I mean, I would hope you wouldn't consider them active. However, what bothers me here, and I was listening to a couple of stories. I heard from somebody I know that had a couple of people die. Their friends on Facebook friends die. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if family members do not know the password to their granddaughters or their daughters, whoever that they're associated with or are related to, if they don't know their password, Ronnie, they can't have that profile removed. They can't get in. They can't. They need to know the password to deactivate it. And let's not forget about the fact that deactivating a profile on Facebook is tedious enough. How sucky is that? I think you should have the respect. Now, I understand they could be used as memorials, and I know a lot of people go to their websites or their Facebook pages to say, we miss you, we're thinking about you, and this, that, and the other thing. But if a family member, especially a mother or a father or a sibling, wants to have their deceased relative, their profile removed, Facebook should have the decency to do it. I was back on episode number 197, actually, where we talked about that. And if you think about it, the amount of people on Facebook, it is so true, and it's only going to increase. More than likely, the odds would state as more people join Facebook. That when there are hundreds or hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people on a network, on one enclosed area, location, that some of them have to pass on. So it's just the number seemed high because 1.78 million? Yeah, it's a lot of people. And
it is a lot of people.
All right, we do have to go.
Inactive accounts.
Yeah, there you go. Or the robots that are involved. How many of those are part of Facebook? Even putting that into account, they made an estimation, a guesstimation maybe, or an estimation, either way. All right, we do have to go, folks. That's all the time Ronnie and I have for this 264th episode of the show. Hope you enjoyed it as much as Ronnie and I enjoyed co-hosting it for you. We'll be back for the next one to do it all over again for all of you with a bunch of new items. So won't you be with us? Won't you tune in? All right, folks. Until then, we do have to say so long. Farewell. Much love to you all. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.